Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Easy English Talk.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Mike. Today's topic is something you'll use in almost every conversation you ever have in English.
Yes, today we're learning how to express agreement and disagreement politely.
This is such an important skill. You can know perfect grammar, but if you disagree with someone in a rude, direct way, it can create real problems.
So you spend months or maybe even years learning English.
Right.
You memorize the vocabulary, you drill the verb tenses, and eventually you manage to construct this perfectly grammatical sentence, and you feel incredibly proud.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great feeling.
But then you take that flawless sentence into a real-world boardroom or a dinner party, and you use it to tell someone you disagree with them. You say the words, and instantly the temperature of the room just drops.
Yeah.
The other person completely shuts down. And you're sitting there wondering what went wrong because, well, your grammar was perfect.
Right. It happens all the time. People often assume that learning a language is just about, exchanging data. And if the data is correct, the communication should be successful.
Makes sense on paper.
It does, but language is primarily a tool for managing relationships. So if your delivery triggers the other person's defenses, the conversation is over, regardless of how accurate your verbs are.
Wow. Okay. So today we are taking a deep dive into the art of disagreeing in English without, starting a fire.
It's such a crucial skill. We are looking at some really fascinating linguistic data today about how native English speakers navigate conflict. It reveals a lot about the psychology behind polite disagreement.
It really does.
Yeah.
And because we know many of our listeners use this show to practice their English comprehension, we're going to do things a little differently today.
Yes, we are.
We are going to speak at a steady, relaxed pace, nice and slow. The goal here is to give you time to really absorb the concepts, the vocabulary, and the cultural nuances without feeling rushed.
We'll break down the actual mechanics of why certain phrases work and why others just crash and burn.
So the best place to start is by looking at the fundamental problem with direct disagreement. In many English-speaking cultures, especially in business environments, saying something like, "you are wrong" or "that is a bad idea" is not just seen as blunt.
Right. It is processed almost like a physical threat.
A physical threat. That sounds a little extreme. I mean, I'm just telling my coworker the marketing budget is too low. I'm not holding a weapon.
Consciously, yes, you're just talking about a budget. But subconsciously, when someone is told they are wrong in a very blunt manner, it triggers the amygdala. That's the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we often call this putting up a firewall. When that ego firewall goes up, the other person's brain is no longer evaluating your logical argument. It is only focused on defending itself.
Let's repeat that word for our listeners, actually. Defensive. It means acting like you need to protect yourself from an attack. So when someone feels defensive, they stop listening.
Exactly. They stop listening entirely.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's kind of like handing someone a gift. If you throw the gift at their head, they are going to be angry, even if the gift inside is wonderful.
That is a great way to put it.
Polite phrasing is just the wrapping paper, is how you hand them the gift so they actually want to open it.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, changing the packaging keeps your message exactly the same, but it completely changes how it is received.
And this can be incredibly frustrating for people coming from cultures where being blunt is just a sign of efficiency.
Oh, definitely. What linguists call high directness cultures. In those cultures, if an idea is bad, you say it is bad so the team can move on quickly.
Right.
But in typical American or British corporate cultures, indirectness is often the default mode of respect. You have to preserve the other person's dignity, or what we often call saving face.
Saving face. That's a great idiom. Okay, let's ground this in a real-world scenario. Let's imagine you are in a meeting with your boss, Sarah.
Okay, poor Sarah.
Right. And Sarah says, "I think we should launch our new software product in March." Now, you know for a fact that the software has way too many bugs, and launching in March will be a disaster. It has to be April.
Okay, high stakes.
Very. But if you just say, "March won't work, we need to do April," Sarah's firewall immediately goes up. She feels undermined in front of the team.
Right. So to avoid triggering Sarah, we first need to look at how we build baseline rapport. The easiest way to get security clearance past that firewall is through agreement. If you agree with someone, their firewall drops immediately. So phrases like, "I completely agree," or "you're absolutely right," are very powerful tools.
There's actually one phrase in the linguistic data that I find fascinating for English learners, and that is, I couldn't agree more.
Oh, yes, that's a classic.
On the surface, it uses a negative word, couldn't. A learner might hear that and think, oh, that means disagreement, but it actually means your agreement is at 100% capacity.
Right. It is literally impossible for you to agree any more than you already do.
Let's give our listeners a second to practice that one. I couldn't agree more. It's such a natural phrase.
It is a great phrase to keep in your vocabulary because it carries so much warmth. But of course, in our scenario with Sarah, you do not agree with her.
No, I definitely don't.
You cannot say, I couldn't agree more about a March launch. Which brings us to the concept of partial agreement. This acts as a psychological bridge.
The data suggests using phrases like, I see your point, but, or that is true, however. Let me push back on this, though. If I say to Sarah, I see your point, but aren't I really just disagreeing in disguise? Like, I don't actually agree with her point. I think her point is terrible. Why am I pretending?
It is a very common hesitation, but it's not about lying. It's about cognitive dissonance.
Okay, how so?
When you say, I see your point, you are not necessarily saying her idea is the right one. You are validating her reality. Oh. You are acknowledging that based on the information she has, her thought process makes sense. You're saying, I hear you and I respect your position. Once she feels validated, her defenses stay down.
I see. So you are acknowledging her perspective. And I really want to anchor on that word for our learners. Perspective. Perspective. It means your unique point of view.
That's a vital word.
Just like two people can look at the same object from different sides of a room and see different shapes, two people can look at a business problem and see different realities.
Right.
So when you say, I see your point, you are simply validating that her perspective exists.
And once that bridge of validation is built, then you can introduce the disagreement. But again, you cannot just drop a bomb on the other side of the bridge.
No bombs allowed.
Right. You need what linguists call a soft opening. Instead of saying, no, that's wrong, you pivot gently.
Like saying, I see it a little differently.
Yes. Or, that is an interesting point. But I think, and then you share your idea, by calling the point interesting, you show respect for her intellect before you offer a different view.
Here is where the specific word choices get really interesting to me. The data highlights the phrase, I'm not sure I completely agree.
Yes, that one is brilliant.
When I hear the word completely added into that sentence, it almost feels like it gives me an escape hatch. If I just say, I'm not sure I agree, it sounds like a solid wall.
It does.
But I'm not sure I completely agree. It implies that I might agree with 95% of what you said, and we are just debating the last 5%. Am I off base here?
Not at all. That is exactly the mechanism at play. The word completely acts as a cushion. It softens the absolute nature of the disagreement.
It turns a rejection into a negotiation.
Yes. It signals to Sarah that you are not attacking her entire vision. You just want to adjust specific detail.
So let's apply this to Sarah in the software launch. She says, we should launch in March. I reply, I see your point about wanting to get to market quickly, but I'm not sure I completely agree that March gives us enough time for bug testing.
Notice how much smoother that lands.
Yeah, it really did.
You validated her underlying goal, getting to market quickly, and then you use a soft opening to introduce the delay. But we can actually make that sentence even more effective by using another technique called hedging.
Hedging. Let me spell that out. Hedging. Let's unpack that. When I think of a hedge, I think of the green bushes in front of a house.
Right, the landscaping.
Exactly. They create a soft boundary between the street and the yard. Linguistic hedging seems to do the same thing.
It really does. It is the use of soft words like maybe, perhaps, I think, or it seems like, to create a buffer inside your sentence.
So it reduces the absolute certainty of your statement.
Exactly. If you say March will be a disaster, you leave no room for discussion. You are claiming absolute truth.
Right.
But if you hedge and say, I am a little worried that March might present some challenges, you are creating emotional space. You are offering an opinion, not a hard fact, which allows the other person to consider it without feeling bullied.
It reminds me of the shock absorbers on a car.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, if you drive over a bumpy road without shock absorbers, you feel the violent impact of every single rock. It's jarring.
Very uncomfortable.
Right. But if your car has good shock absorbers, the road is still exactly as bumpy, but the ride feels smooth.
That's a perfect analogy.
Hedging doesn't change the fact that you are disagreeing. The road is still bumpy, but it absorbs the impact so the listener doesn't feel attacked.
And that is crucial for maintaining a good working relationship. So let's look at the ultimate, perfectly crafted response to Sarah.
Okay, let's hear it.
She wants a March launch. You say, I see your point about moving quickly, but I am a little worried that March might be too early for the development team. What if we aimed for April instead?
Oh, that is a masterpiece. Let's break down the mechanics of why that works so well.
Let's do it.
First, I see your point. That is the partial agreement to keep the firewall down. Then, I am a little worried. That is hedging, making the concern personal and soft rather than an objective attack.
Right.
Then, might be too early. More hedging, reducing the absolute certainty. And finally, what if we aimed for April instead? Ending on a question.
Ending on a question is a brilliant strategy. It invites the other person to collaborate on the solution.
Because you aren't just telling them what to do.
Exactly. Instead of telling Sarah what to do, you are asking her to evaluate a new possibility with you. You have successfully shifted the dynamic from a conflict into a joint problem-solving exercise.
This all sounds incredibly effective, but it also sounds like you have to constantly monitor every single word that comes out of your mouth.
It takes practice.
What happens when people get this wrong? Even if they're trying to be polite. Like, what are the common mistakes?
A very common pitfall, especially for people who are nervous about speaking English in high-stakes environments, is over-apologizing. When people learn about hedging and soft openings, they sometimes use all of them at once. They say, I am so sorry, but maybe, I think, perhaps we shouldn't do March. I'm sorry if that's wrong.
You completely lose your voice when you do that. The packaging becomes so thick that the actual message is buried.
Right.
Sarah is going to listen to them and think, does this person even know what they're talking about? It projects a severe lack of confidence.
It dilutes your professional authority. The goal of polite disagreement is not to become invisible or to apologize for having an opinion.
Exactly.
The goal is to share your brilliant idea in a way that the other person can actually hear. If you overhedge, the idea disappears.
Another thing we need to address is the music behind the words. We have been talking about phrasing, but tone of voice and pacing carry massive cultural weight.
Oh, absolutely.
You can use the most perfectly constructed, hedged sentence in the world, but if your tone is sharp, it completely overrides the vocabulary.
The nonverbal cues always win. If you speak quickly, loudly, or with a clipped, frustrated rhythm, the amygdala will register the threat, regardless of whether you said, I see your point.
Wait, let me demonstrate.
Yeah.
If I say to Sarah, with a really aggressive, fast tone, I see your point. But from my perspective, you are moving too fast.
Yikes.
Yeah, the polite words, I see your point, and from my perspective, did absolutely nothing to hide the fact that I am essentially attacking her.
The words were polite, but the music was angry. In English-speaking cultures, a calm, measured pace is interpreted as thoughtfulness and respect.
Right.
When you slow down, you signal that you are in control of your emotions.
Which actually brings up an interesting point about this very deep dive. The steady, relaxed pace we are using for this conversation.
Yes.
We're doing it to help language learners process the vocabulary, but it's also a perfect template for the tone you should use when disagreeing.
That's so true.
If you feel your heart rate going up in a meeting because you need to disagree with your boss, just take a breath and intentionally slow your speech down to this exact pace. It automatically lowers the temperature in the room.
And it gives you the necessary milliseconds to choose your words carefully. It projects a calm authority that naturally makes people want to listen to you.
So we have built a pretty comprehensive toolkit today. We know we need to bypass the ego firewall. We can do that by establishing baseline agreement.
Right.
And if we need to disagree, we build a bridge with partial agreement, validating their perspective before sharing our own.
We use soft openings and the power of the word completely to create an escape hatch. We use hedging, words like might and perhaps as linguistic shock absorbers, and we deliver the whole package with a calm, measured tone, being careful not to over-apologize and lose our authority.
It is a delicate balance, but when you understand the psychology behind it, it stops feeling like a set of random grammar rules and starts feeling like a predictable system you can navigate.
It does. And, that brings up a larger, more structural question about the future of global communication.
Oh, how so?
Well, we are currently spending all this time analyzing the precise cultural weight of words like might and completely. But we are rapidly moving into a world dominated by artificial intelligence and real-time translation tools.
Right. Tools that can instantly translate an email written by someone in a highly direct culture and output it for a reader in a highly indirect culture.
Exactly. And those tools are being programmed to automatically add or remove these polite hedges based on the target language.
Oh, wow.
So if an AI starts automatically padding our sentences with, I see your point, and perhaps we have to wonder, will this nuanced art of polite English slowly fade away?
That's a scary thought.
If the software does all the emotional labor of softening the blow for us, will humans eventually lose the ability to navigate this kind of interpersonal friction on their own?
That is a fascinating thought to leave our listeners with. If the algorithm handles the shock absorbers, do we just forget how to drive carefully? It makes you realize that learning these interpersonal skills isn't just about speaking English better. It is about maintaining a fundamental human capacity for empathy and negotiation. We really don't want to outsource our emotional intelligence to a machine.
Absolutely not. The nuance of a human voice, choosing to build a bridge rather than a wall, is something a machine can mimic, but it cannot truly replace the genuine respect it conveys.
What a profound place to leave it. Thank you for walking through this complex landscape with us.
It was a pleasure.
For everyone listening, taking the time to master these subtle shifts in phrasing will completely change the way people respond to your ideas. So the next time you find yourself in a disagreement, take a breath, slow down, and try building a bridge. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.
If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend who is learning English too. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and take care of your English.
See you next time on Easy English Talk.
Bye, everyone.